about looking backwards, the cox is looking forward. So sometimes the cox is relying on the strokes person straight in front of him to relay information, because the cox doesn't want to be looking around too much to see how the crew behind them are doing, because that will destabilize the boat, make it a little bit slower. But a nice easy rate that we can see there from St Paul's School.
Absolutely, it's very much a team sport is rowing. You have to have a certain level of trust among your fellow crew members, and this St Paul's US crew certainly have that. They have full belief in their strokes setting the rate, in their bow pair setting the balance, in the engine room in the middle of the middle four, and the Velda Cox as well, let's not forget. Very important crew. Well, I would be interested to see Coxless 8 at some point. I think that'd be a wonderful event.
Could be a lot of crashing.
Yeah. But as you can see here, looking very strong and long and confident.
Yeah, they'll be
really putting a show on.
Good. Yeah, and they can enjoy this last part of the race. They feel like they've got complete control here.
And we can see the next races have got started at a blistering pace in the other semi-final of the junior eights between Enniskillen Royal Boat Club in Ireland and Henley on their home water. And a great start actually from the visitors from Ireland. Just seeing in the top right of your picture the St Paul's Girls School USA beating the composite of Tideway and St Paul's Girls. Unless something else happens at this point, I think that was pretty set. But going down to the end of Temple Island for the other semi-final of the junior eight to see who will face St Paul's School USA, and it looks like it's Enniskillen taking the early advantage.
Yeah, they've come out of their start very strong, and are trying to maintain their lead. I reckon they've got about half a boat length at the moment. They'll be trying to stretch that out, lengthen their strokes, and settle down into a doable stroke rate for them to maintain down the coast, down the course.
Down the coast, where
are we?
Well, it's both matching stroke rates at the moment of 38, but it is all about the start at this point. It's so important to have an important start, especially off Temple Island. Well, we talked about this before. The guys were talking about it earlier, Greg and Ed. You can follow the boys, but if you do, you're going to end up in the bank. You have to have a lot. Well, at this stage, have a lot of belief in your cox, but also if you're steering yourself, you have to just trust your instinct when you set up at the start line.
Yeah,
I think there might be a lot of self-doubt may creep in at starts, but at this point there's full belief at this level. It is absolute perfection for both crews. Enniskillen coming past us at the commentary position. It might just be about to get clear water, but it's very, very close. I think they're just a canvas at the back, but they might just be getting some clear water. Enniskillen from Ireland. We're looking at Henley's second crew here. On the Buckinghamshire side, this is their second eights. Did win the second eights at National Schools Regatta, but they are really under the cosh here against the Enniskillen crew. They
are. They're going to have to put a move on very sharpish if they're going to pull back this lead that Enniskillen have got. It just shows that getting a very confident start can really reap rewards for the crew. Enniskillen doing really well on their start and coming out of Temple Island ahead. Even though Henley are the local crew, they know these waters like the back of their hands. But Enniskillen have definitely got the advantage here. You can see Henley trying to creep up on them now. Have Enniskillen still got enough depth of endurance to keep this up right to the end of the race as they go past the enclosures? I'm sure all their supporters are going to be shouting and cheering for them, giving them some motivation to just work through that pain that they'll all be feeling.
Absolutely. It's a very confident crew here. We're looking at a couple of junior 16s in here actually won their event at National Schools Regatta, in fourth in the Women's Champions 8 the next day. And these crew actually have a record over in Ireland, the fastest crew at the Castle Connell Head of the River race, as well as 2 other head race wins. This is a very, very confident crew, and they are showing it here. It's quite an interesting point, that, as well, because people talk about there's 2 different types of racing. If you don't know much about rowing, there's 2 different types of racing. Head racing, where you're doing time trials one after the other, and regatta racing, where you're side by side. And some crews maybe struggle to transition between head and regatta racing, but some crews just take it in their stride.
Yeah. The thing with head racing and time trials is that you can't see who you're racing against. You've just got to race your best race. This side-by-side racing, I find as a spectator, is so much more exciting. It's very gladiatorial. There's a winner, there's a loser. There's no in between here, and you can see exactly how well each crew are doing. So you pays your money, takes your choice.
Absolutely. We're seeing them go across looking very confident at the finish line as the next event starts, which will be the Aspirational Single Sculls. And we'll be back with, we're going to bring our friend back in to introduce our next race for us, Jack. Which is the Aspirational Single Sculls. We have on the Berkshire side Agecroft's Parsons, and on the Buckinghamshire side Grosvenor's Eibel.
So yes, this is the semi-final of this event. So the winner of this race will go through with the winner of the next race, and they'll race in the final later on today. So they've done incredibly well to get this far in the weekend, but we've got to cut 2 of these 4 athletes over the course of the next 2 races so that we have our 2 finalists. So it looks to me, if we look on that overhead footage that we've got here, that it is Grosvenor Rowing Club on the far side who have the early lead in this race. But we've just seen the finish there of the previous race, which was the Junior 8s. So Grosvenor Rowing Club just leading out as we come through the start of the race, but a race can't be won off the start. They need to hold that position as they go down the course, and that will be the challenge for Eibel, the sculler for Grosvenor Rowing Club.
That's right, she's certainly taking advantage of these early bits. Rate 28 at the moment, holding it. Lucy Eibel, the part of the started out with the Paul Turner High Performance at Chester School. 3rd at Wallingford this year, 6th in the Championship Singles the next day. A lot of prowess coming to this then again. We've got Jordan Parsons for Agecroft back over in Manchester.
It's interesting to see Agecroft rating just a little bit higher than Grosvenor over on the far side, just about 30 strokes a minute there on the near side of the course, and that will help her as she tries to mount a challenge to the Grosvenor sculler.
One thing to point out here is it's brilliant to see. The thing about single sculls is you're exposed, completely exposed as a rower. Everything is going on show, but the thing that is really standing out for me with this Grosvenor sculler is her reach. Absolutely astonishing arch on that stroke that she's getting. She's getting the maximum amount of time in the water as she possibly can to get that perfect parabolic curve that we talk about. I'll talk about that later in rowing, which is power. So getting the most power in the water at as much time as possible.
Yeah, she's really picking it up at the catch, getting that leg drive in. It's all about legs in rowing. It looks like it's the arms that are doing the action, but really it's the lower body that has the strength, and it's from there that this power is coming for the Grosvenor sculler Eibel on the far side.
Still ringing in my ears from my old rowing days. It was always our call was legs and backs. Heard it about 20 times in a well, probably 200 actually times in a race. But she's just doing it all herself. This is it with single sculling. You're on your own. You have to focus on your own head. The coach is in the boat, but he can't talk to you at this point. It's all about your mentality, how you handle your own race. And she's doing it very well right now, but can still see Agecroft's Jordan Parsons still there. Jordan Parsons, yeah, world-class star athlete. 2nd year at Manchester Metropolitan University, but really showing off her skills at Henley Women's Regatta in the semi-final. But it is very much the Grosvenor's Lucy Eibel in control as it comes to the regatta enclosure.
The great thing, though, about single sculls racing is that everything can change very, very quickly. There's only one athlete in each boat, so it's a strong move from one of these athletes, and the sculls really can change position much more quickly than, say, an 8 or a 4. So we could see some movement in that gap between, but Grosvenor certainly have a strong advantage as they come towards the middle of this race, and Eibel will be looking to push off the Agecroft Rowing Club sculler on the near side of the course as she continues down the racetrack.
There's a lovely form there from Lucy Eibel. Also notice as well there's a slight pause at the finish as well. It allows the rowers, normally when we talk about it in rowing we see a cycle of the stroke, and we saw some people see it, the finish is where you've got where she puts her hands towards her torso there. And that's where she's giving herself a pause. That is where the boat is probably the most vulnerable in terms of balance. That's where you have to set yourself before you take the next stroke. Rowing is all about consistency, and if you get that right every time, you'll have a perfect platform, and that's what she's got right here as the next race starts.
So yeah, in the next race, which is the second semi-final of the Aspirational Single Sculls, we have on the near side the Berkshire Station, the American School represented by Blake, and on the far side Royal Chester represented by Mackay, and they're just coming past Temple Island now.
They are indeed. Good start from both groups, but it is the American School in London. Grace Bake is the sculler on the left side of your picture and the bottom left screen. But a strong pressure as well from Royal Chester's Sarah Mackay. You go back to the top of the picture there, you'll see coming towards the Upper Thames, towards the Revenant Club, which our finish line here at Henley Regatta. It is Lucy Eibel keeping up that fantastic form that she's got in the single scull, and that should see her to the Aspirational Single Sculls final for the Bernard Churcher Trophy. As at Temple Island, they've come out to Temple Island, her opponent who will be decided, but at the moment it's the American School in London, Grace Bate.
Yeah, an early lead of probably about a length, maybe going to 2 lengths there as they come past Temple Island. But a lead like that, the real advantage is you can look back, you're confident in your position, and that real mental difference can make a big improvement in your race. You know you're ahead, you can push on down the course, and that's a real advantage to have at this stage. Really
good platform set. So American School in London, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they train down in East London.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and love a bit of East London representation down at Poplar, and we certainly see Lee down there as well. Great to see lots of London clubs here as well, but of course coming from all over, as we see Royal Chester from the northwest. A great centre of training there. As we said before, Lucy Eibel had a training and a high performance at Chester, so we could see 2 Chester people in the final. Well, at the moment though, it's the American School in London sculler who is taking this by storm at the moment.
So although it is the American School in London who is leading, but I'm really enjoying looking at the technique of the Royal Chester sculler. If you watch her blades as they go into the water at the front of the stroke, there's just that little bit of backsplash on the oar, and that shows she's really getting the blade down to the water to take the most of the full stroke pattern. But it is the American School of London that now lead with 2.5 lengths as they go past our commentary box here and head off down into the middle portion of the course.
Absolutely, some great sculling on display here at Henley Women's Regatta. Both keeping up the rate at 30-31. And it's very interesting actually. If you look at it for the first time, some people maybe watching rowing for the first time think, oh, they look like they're taking it quite slowly each stroke, but it's very, very intense in those shells right there. As they come to the regatta enclosure, you can see all eyes in the regatta enclosure on these 2 scullers as they fight for that place in the final later this afternoon.
Quite a relaxed finish for the American School in London sculler. She's doing a lot of the work at the front ends of the stroke, really putting the power down at the front, and at the finish just letting the boat roll through and then heading back up the slide to hit her next stroke. Fairly high rate from this sculler.
It is, yes. I think you're still keeping that 30-31.
Yeah, something around there.
Yeah, but we have to say as well, she's keeping the boat nice. It's a stable platform. I mean, if you talk to anyone in rowing, talk about her, you'll notice the little writing under her boat. It says Philippi. This is a popular boat to be used early, but of course there are others. We've seen Empackers, Hudson's as well, but Philippines are, well, they're very special boats, and she is really mastering the platform now. Yeah, for my own experience of trying a Philippi, where I was about 5 times I was close to going in.
They're a very narrow hull. They're a very narrow hull, which can make them more difficult to balance, but it does mean they're faster through the water if you master it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we can see the sculler Grace Blake, doing incredibly well there from the American School of London. And she's got a really comfortable lead now. She comes into the middle of the race.
She is. But Royal Chester, Sarah Mackay, not giving up anything at all. She's keeping that length, as you say, finding the catches very well. Setting a good platform at the finish as well. Just trying her best to keep in touch, but it is very relaxed and composed and confident row from the American School in London as we drop back to the start line up at Temple Island for the first semi-final of the Championship Double Sculls. On your left, on the Berkshire side, Reading University, and on the right is Thames Rowing Club. Great race coming up there, as we maybe just have one more word on the performance of the American School sculler.
Yeah, so the American sculler just coming up to the finish line now. She's performed incredibly well in that race. That lead just expanded as she goes down the course, and she'll be very happy with that result, I'm sure. But in the double sculls, it looks like a very closely matched race coming out of Temple Island. Both boats level now. That's Reading University against Thames Rowing Club on the far side. And these boats both racing to go through to the final later on today. Looks to me as though Reading University on the Berkshire Bank have the slightest advantage here, but it can only be half a canvas, if that, as they head off down the course in this first semi-final of the Championship Double Sculls. It's the fastest doubles we'll see here on the course this weekend.
And they are racing for the W Peer Cup. From Reading University, we've got Chloe Knight and Lucy Ryan, and from Thames, Jordan, Cole Hussain and Emma Reiser, I believe.
So Chloe and Lucy from Reading just pushing off there against the Thames Rowing Club crew. They're trying to expand on that slight advantage they have, see if they can eke it out to half a length, maybe a length, and then they can start to move off down the course. They want to have the opportunity to look back on the other scullers, to push off them as they come down. But Thames Rowing Club certainly not going to give up easy on the far side.
No, they're trying to push back and claim the lead here, but Reading University not giving them any quarter whatsoever. They're just going to pass us in the commentary box, and Thames are, it's just a boat lead that Reading University have got on Thames. It doesn't look like Thames are making much of a dent in that lead at the moment.
But both boats, stroke for stroke, rating perfectly the same, really, and basically placing the blades in the water at the same time. So it's all about power with these two boats. They want to get back to side on side. They're rating exactly the same. So the only way they can make that difference is by putting more shunt through the water. Yeah,
and that's what they'll be thinking about, is what can we do different that's going to make the boat go faster at this point. They will have practiced different techniques to put that pressure on, gain a bit more speed in the boat. Sometimes it's just more discipline between the crew and timing, but how much more power have they got in those legs to put down the boat and down the course?
But Reading University certainly won't be resting on their laurels there. They're only a couple of lengths up now on the course, maybe 1.5 length up on Thames Rowing Club. That's still a distance that is catchable down this course. They want to continue pushing on.
In the double. Yeah, you can see both those, the ladies from Reading University, nice upright position, straight backs, that's what we want to see. Heads up. If we look at Thames Rowing Club, they tend to look down a little bit more, but different techniques work for different crews. I always get my crews to have their heads up as much as possible. It straightens the back. It gives them a little bit more power through the legs at that point, and they're just hinging over at the hips there.
So we're reaching now the halfway point in the race. This in many races would be where the race is won or lost, but it looks in this case as though Reading do have a strong advantage here already, and they'll just be looking to capitalise on that as they go into their third quarter. It's at this point that the race starts to get more challenging for the athletes. They're really starting to feel the effects of the distance they've already gone, starting to feel that lactic acid build up. They just want to continue to turn the screw on their opposition.
Yeah, and Reading University look like they're pulling away from Thames Rowing Club. They've still got to maintain their discipline and the mental strength to see this through right to the finish line. They can't let up in any way at the moment.
Both doubles doing a fantastic job with the steering, I must say. We've had nothing to say about that as they go down the course, and that's great to see here as we make it through to Sunday. It is a challenging course to steer. The fact that on either side you have the jeopardy of the wooden piles that you want to avoid, it makes a certain difference to racing with plastic buoys on either side of you, and the crews, I'm sure, will be very aware of that as they go down the course.
Yeah, it can be quite intimidating for those crews that have not raced at Henley before. They come and see the course. And a lot of crews comment that it just looked very narrow to them, and if once you've got two crews side by side racing down, it's just another thing to contend to. So a lot going through the mind in as these ladies are racing down the course, trying to make sure they're getting the best line they can, but not getting too near the booms or straying too near the middle of the course.
And we can see in the bottom left of our screens the next race just set off, which is the second semi-final of the Championship Double Sculls. We have a composite in the first on the near side in the Berkshire station, and that's Winnipeg Rowing Club from Canada and Club Luzerne. And on the far side we have Leander Club racing on home water.
Yes, and from the Winnipeg and Zay Club Luzerne, we've got Michelle Truot and Helena Hassover. And Leander Club A is Sarah Bowyer and Bethany Bryan in that crew.
So it looks to me as though it's the composite from Winnipeg and Say Club that are leading out this race. As we go past the commentary box now and in towards the enclosure, they've got about a 1-length lead over Leander Club, but I'm sure Leander have a plan up their sleeve and will start to push back as we move on down the course.
Yeah, this is their home turf here, and we can see that Leander are getting a little bit more overlap now on the Canadian and Zay Club composite crew. Both crews straying a little bit too far near the middle of the course, and the umpire has got his flag out and warning them to move over before they do each other any damage. So,
watching from above, we can see the fantastic backsplash from both these crews, really getting their blades down to the catch, making sure they use all of the stroke length they've got at their disposal to get as much power through the water as they can.
Yeah, very nice blade work from both these crews. Nice clean exits, and keeping those knees down, keeping that power on. Oh, look at the pain on that face.
There's a common saying that there's no such thing as a sprint in rowing. It may not look like that longer distance, but it's a very long time to be in a boat going down this course, and it really does hurt as you get through into the second half and the later stage of the race. It's all about having that mental strength to push through that and try to get your best performance on the water as you can.
Yeah, everything will be hurting. Rowing is one of those sports that uses all the main muscle groups of the body, and they will all be suffering from the lactate build up. After the first minute, we say in rowing that the first minute's free, you don't feel the pain, but after that, oh boy, you do feel the pain, and they'll be hurting for a long time after as well. So Winnipeg and the Zay Club look like they've still got a hold on this race. Leander are pushing hard, not letting them get away with it, but at the moment it's still the Winnipeg and Zay Club in the lead.
So while Winnipeg and Zay Club do hold on to that lead, it looks to me as though the gap may have narrowed a little bit there. Just Leander continuing to challenge, keep throwing everything they can at this composite crew. They really want to try and move up next to them and move through as they go down the course.
Yeah, and they could still do it. We've seen quite a few very close finishes where the trailers actually snatched it on the line, and it must be so disappointing if you've led all the way down the course and you just lose it in those last few seconds. So both these crews really hungry for a win here.
Yeah, if you don't get your pacing right, you can find yourself in that third quarter of the race going, I don't have the power left to hold on to this position that I'm in.
Yeah, and it's to have that maturity and that discipline as a crew to race your race. You can only control what's going on in your boat, and just because you're behind at the halfway point doesn't mean that you've lost. A lot of these races are won in the middle third of the race, but let's see what's going to happen here.
Well, as we look forward to that race going into the finish line there, looks actually very close between these two crews. Winnipeg did have that advantage early on, but it looks to me as though Leander have really moved up towards the finish.
Wow, so there's a real good fight back, and they've overtaken them, yeah.
So what a fantastic race plan there from Leander, moving through as they went through the third and fourth quarter of the race to win that second semi-final of the championship double sculls.
And in the meantime, we have got race number Race number 351 is underway, just past the end of Temple Island. We've got the Isle of Ely Rowing Club with P. Hayden on the Berkshire Station, and Glasgow Academy with A. Buchanan on the Buckinghamshire Station.
Well, a bit of a tussle going on.
Yeah,
but there's a real tussle going on the river as well.
Yeah.
This is a super race, a super start from the Glasgow Academy sculler Anna Buchanan against Isle of Ely's Phoebe Hayden. Phoebe Hayden, of course, a lot of precedent in these races. Been here before, 5th at National Schools Regatta, and well, she is falling behind at the moment, probably about 2.5 lengths at the moment in these early stages.
Yeah, Buchanan has really opened up a very substantial lead there and is in a very commanding position. But as you say, very early stages. They're just coming up to the commentary box. But Hayden has not made any move to close that lead at the moment. So she's biding her time. Buchanan keeping a very close eye on what she's doing. If she just put a challenge in, she'll be wanting to respond as soon as possible. But at the moment, very comfortable lead for Buchanan from Glasgow Academy.
Yes, this is a very confident Sculls. He's sitting on about rate 32 at the moment. So settled into a good rhythm here. You can see the bow ball, as Greg was saying earlier. That bow ball staying nice and consistent, as well as a few bubbles at the stern as well. So having bubbles at the stern is a good sign as well. If you can see those, probably not from that high drone distance, but if you see from the bank. But Isle of Ely's sculler is Phoebe Hayden still putting in an effort, keeping the rate high, just trying to get as much length as possible out of her stroke. Now about 29, so taking a few pips lower, but going for the length, I think.
Yeah, she's holding ahead, and I think just trying to maintain the best technique in her stroke as possible. She'll know that she can still get power from her stroke, even though her stroke rate might be lower than that of Buchanan from Glasgow Academy. But at the moment, there's not much movement in the placements of where these two scullers are. Buchanan still keeping that lead. Both of these rowers, nice relaxed stance in the boat, very nicely balanced, and some good clean blade work there. But looking like they are getting a little bit tired. You can see there Buchanan having a little word with herself. Motivation, telling herself she's just got to dig deep in this race. There's a lot riding on it.
It is. It's amazing how you can suddenly just lose a bit of energy in these races. When you have a great start, sometimes it can just go straight away. I still remember from one of my races at when that school's regatta, I think it was, we had our local rivals next to us. They got the best start I'd ever seen in about 10, but then by about a kilometre we just rode straight through them. But at this stage, these guys are very composed. They know how to manage a race, but Buchanan just having to dig deep, as she is doing there at the catch, and just find that extra bit of energy, just surge over, just gain those inches bit by bit. This is where these races are won, right in this middle bit. Mental
strength, and a little bit more difficult, I think, if you're a single sculler. There's no one else to motivate you. It's all what's in your head. And Buchanan's obviously got a strategy. She's saying things to herself. She's keeping herself going, digging deep for that strength. Look, you can still see her. She's got the energy to do that as well. She must have a lot left.
It's incredible to watch, I have to say. You can see how much energy she's putting in, just gulping in the air as much as she can, just powering down, putting as much power down as she can. You can see how much it means to her. See it coming actually into the middle of the course as well a little bit. But I might concede but the umpire's flag is all right. She's still got clear water over Isle of Ely's Phoebe Hayden, who, for her credit, is still keeping that race up high and keeping her form as well.
Good.
But I can see her just coming into picture now, just in the bottom right of your screen. And there she goes. And on the bottom left is now the other semi-final, which we will come back to in this. I'll just announce now. You've got on the Berkshire side, on the left is Camus's Furnace, Camus Jemima Firmis, and Warrington on Buckinghamshire's side, who is Ellen Stanhope. Interesting start. A bit of a change of direction as well. We talked about that start with earlier, didn't we? And it's more important, especially when you're a single scull on your own.
Yeah, it is. It's very tricky coming off the end of the island. We've seen quite a few crews get into a little bit of steering difficulty at that point. But you're right, with the single scullers, it's very sensitive to any correction in the steering, and very, very easy to oversteer these boats because they are so light. And these scullers don't want to give themselves more of a zigzag line, more distance effectively to row. So they want to get a good line coming off the end of the island and then try and maintain that position on the course right through. And it does look like Buchanan has finished her race, the previous race.
You can see the effort that she's put in there.
She's not left anything out there, which is as it should be. I'm sure she's really pleased.
And also as well from Phoebe Hayden, you can see how much it means.
Yeah. I hope Hayden's really pleased with her performance. Really strong performance from both those scullers. They can be proud of what they've done.
Absolutely. We just returned to the picture on your bottom left. We'll return back to up to the Temple Meadows, where it is the Warrington sculler, Ella Stanhope, who has taken the lead over Camus's Jemima Furness. Now these quarterfinals took place earlier today, and it was, well, the Camus sculler, she won by 2 lengths, 6 minutes 6, and Warrington's sculler 4 lengths, 6 minutes 16 that she won. So it's actually quite a bit of a surprise if you're looking at the form book.
Yeah.
But it's about 3/4 of a length, so it's not over yet. Big
Still
strokes
over
being
that.
put in from Camus's Jemima Furness, but Warrington's and the Stanhope putting the power down.
Yeah. I think in the earlier races as well, it just depends on how much they feel they have to do against the other crew. So the timings, they're a guide, but I wouldn't call it a Bible to go by to judge the form of these ladies in the next, because they'll want to have kept some energy in the bank. I saw Ella Stanhope earlier today looking very good in her races, as was Furness, but they'll if they're sensible, will just do enough to win, get through to the next round, and have enough energy reserves to win their next race.
That's what we're seeing.
Maybe
here.
that's what we're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the name on that boat, Nemo. Finding Nemo, certainly finding the lead at the moment. I mean, goodness me, it's really stretching out here as they come to the Regatta enclosure to Warrington, sculling that resplendent yellow and blue.
Got a lovely long stroke, reaching forward, placing the blades in the water, and then pulling through. Legs first, then arms. She's just taking a glance there to make sure she's on track. And we can see Furness from Cambois just coming into the shot there, putting all her effort into trying to take the lead from Stanhope.
It'll be certainly interesting to see the next perpendicular shot that we get to the course, because I feel like there still might be a bit of overlap at this point.
I think so as well, but we can see both the scullers looking across at each other, so they're obviously within the range of vision.
Sizing each other up, that's what it's always is. At this point, we said it before, it's a bit of a cat and mouse, so coming into the final third of the race, who will make the move first? Will it be Stanhope of Warrington, will she try and push away, or will it be Camus's Jemima Furness to try and launch a surprise attack? Of course, the Warrington sculler Stanhope, Junior 17 champion, beating the Twickenham sculler earlier today. But looking over the top there, she's putting the power down at the catch, just sending them away. Keeping the stroke rate nice and controlled as well. She's keeping it high. It's probably about 29 that she's at the moment. It does look like she might have even got a bit of clear water now. Might have been just some power strokes gone in there.
Yeah, gritting her teeth and digging in. You can see both of these ladies just getting all their reserves of energy and focusing on winning this race. Oh, a little smile there from Furness. Maybe she heard a cheer, a bit of support, but it's good to see.
We are having such brilliant support down here at Henley's on this Sunday. It's been a super day so far of racing. We've got many more to come, including we're going to be moving up soon. We're going to be seeing the Aspirational Club Coxless Fours, and they've just started off. You can see them at the bottom of your picture there. Agecroft, who just disappeared on the bottom of your picture, and Tideway Sculler School, who you're seeing there, the A crew. They are being caught by Agecroft though. In the meantime, in the junior single sculls for the Di Ellis Trophy, still Warrington's Ella Stanhope leading the way at the moment. Her rate's gone up here actually. She might be trying to push away from Camus's Jemima Furness, so she was up at rate 34 still, even at that point in the race. But maybe if we can just go back to that race coming towards the finish line. It is really putting the power down. I think she saw the move coming from Camus and responded in kind, and my goodness, what kind of power it was. Really sending the finishers away to put herself into a final against Glasgow Academy's Anna Buchanan. She keeps looking round at the finish line. I remember doing that when I was there. Where is the finish line? Where is it? Is it there yet?
Please.
And she's found it. Wonderful finish there.
Yeah.
She ended about, very clear water there. 2 lengths. Great finish there. But let's return to Temple Meadows, where the next race is coming. Tideway Sculler School, and they're both storming down the course here.
They are. They're already at the commentary box here with Tideway Sculler School. Got about half a boat length lead over Agecroft. But both crews looking very comfortable and very strong at this early stage of the race. Umpire's got his flag up, so the crews are slightly going off course. I think it's Tideway Sculler School was straying over towards the middle, but both crews have just corrected their steering a little bit.
Yep, saw the move coming in there from the Agecroft girls. Interesting, lots of experience in that crew already halfway behind. Might be a warning to Tideways coming soon if Agecroft can catch up on them. But Tideway sitting right in the middle here. Lots of experience recently, 4th at Ghent, 4th at Metz. And two of them were in second in the 8 at Ghent as well. So these guys know about getting themselves into these high pressure situations, getting themselves up into these. So they're already in the top 4 because they finished there. But these girls are really putting the shifts in. We can see them all here. You can see Aileen Brown at bat, Amy Polglaze, Alice Bloomer and Eleanor Peebles. But coming up are the Agecrofts 4. All Coxless as well. Bear in mind we're not having Cox here. So the steering is being done by one of the crew. Normally it's about, but it does vary actually. Sometimes, normally someone might take the lead and they'll take the stroke rate, which is the way they measure how many strokes they're taking, and they'll take the steering. They'll just take command.
Yeah.
As similar to Steve Redgraves did in 2000 in the Olympics.
Yeah,
when he sat in number 2 or 3, I think it was.
Yeah, and crews will experiment as to what works best for them. So if you've got a settled crew, you can go out and try different things. As much as they'll want to be directing the boat using the pressure on the strokes and not touching the rudder too much. But it is there. But you can see how much more difficult it is with these Coxless 4s going down the course. We've seen them zigzag a little bit. They're racing hard. They're trying to steer. They're trying to stay together. There's an awful lot going on at the same time. And it's easy to just lose a little bit of focus and go slightly off the line that you want.
Absolutely it is. But some super control from the Tideway scullers. I mean, they certainly have a lot to deal with down on the Tideway. It's almost coastal racing, I think, down there at points.
Yeah.
But the Agecrofts, they are not giving up yet, the Agecroft scullers. All of these girls are in the Aspirational Club 8 in 2018. 3 of them were in semi-final before. This crew won the women's 4s in the second tier at Metz a couple of weeks ago, and they came second at Wallingford. So very heated competition. It just goes to show how well Tideway scullers are going as well as the next race gets started.
It does, yeah. So the next race that's just got underway is race 354, which is the second semi-final of the Coxless 4s, and we've got a composite crew of Aberdeen SRA, Inverness Rowing Club and Loch Lomond. Okay, yeah, Loch Lomond, and they are on the Berkshire station against Thames Rowing Club on the Buck station. And at the moment, Thames Rowing Club, they're just coming to the end of the island, and Thames have got a slight lead, maybe quarter of a boat